Hello and welcome to the Tomcast. I'm Tom, president and dictator for life of 515comics.com. It's time at long last for another episode of my life project. There may have been one in the interim, but the last time I did a life project about this particular comic series I'm going to talk about today was in August of 2015. So yeah, my life project, maybe I have not been keeping up on it as much as I would have hoped. But I rewatched that episode, and I'll put a link down in the description so you can watch it as well. It was where I talked about reading the first 4 volumes of the Sandman graphic novel series, as graciously lent to me by my good friend Mikey G. Well, since then, my good friend Mikey G has lent me several more of the Sandman graphic novel series. So he lent me books 5 through 9 in the series, and he also lent me this book. So this is called Endless Nights. It's not actually a numbered volume, and that's because really it appears to be. I haven't read it yet. So I was hoping that I would make this video as a celebration of, I finally read all those books, Mike! Like, thanks for lending me those books again, and I finally read them all. And then I went to get them off my shelf and I saw Endless Nights, and I was like, dang it! I haven't read them all! What it appears to be is it follows, it's a series of short stories following each of the 7 Endless characters, of which Dream, or the Sandman, is one. They're basically like gods of functionality of the human mind, in a way, sort of, I guess. You should read the Sandman books. I wanted to discuss a little bit what I learned reading these books and just kind of what I felt reading these books. Now, very similarly to reading the first 4 graphic novels, there are a lot of things in these books that don't really appeal to me. A lot of the gore and horror kind of themes that show up in some of the books and some of the stories, I wasn't really that into. It's just not really my jam. However, I don't feel like any of them were ever used unnecessarily. Like, this comic feels very purposeful. I don't feel like there's anything superfluous in there. That's something that I really took away, that it seemed like they really were trying to interlace a lot of things. Now, if you've never read the Sandman books, each graphic novel collection is in itself a bit of a self-contained story. They do obviously connect with each other, but it's sort of like a TV series where each episode is a distinct story. There may be characters and elements from past episodes that show up that aren't going to be reintroduced, but really, each one is kind of standalone, which I actually really like. I'm a big fan of anything that's self-referential. I like that a lot. I read things sometimes slowly, and like webcomics, for example, you'll read, the 500 pages that they have in their archive, and then you'll follow along page by page over weeks, months, years. And so I like when there are those little things where it's like, hey, if you've read everything, you might remember this guy. Or, hey, if you've read everything, you might remember the significance of this seemingly insignificant item. Like, I really love that stuff, and Sandman does quite a bit of that, especially with characters where it's like, you're not going to get reintroduced to every character over and over and over again. It's, he was introduced way back in that book, and here he is again, and we get his deal, or we might just have a little bit of context for you, but we're not gonna go out of our way to have everybody say his name. Like, that's something that I have found frustrating reading some comics, some print comics, is that characters go out of their way to really reintroduce themselves every time they reappear in the story. And for some people that might be very helpful, but I like not having that. It took me a long time, again, to read all of these, and it's because I still just have a hard time reading comics. I just don't read physical comics that much. If the Sandman was all online for me to read page by page, I probably would have, I can guarantee I would have read it a lot faster. I don't know what that is. I think that it's just because that's how I started reading long format story comics, was online. So it was really a struggle to have this many books. I'm still not done. I still have one more book to read. But it was very hard to get through books 5 through 9. That said, I am very excited to read Endless Nights. And I'm also very excited to get my hands on a copy of Volume 10, The Wake, because that is the last book in the Sandman saga, as far as I can tell. Again, Endless Nights seems to be just a short story collection, and so I'm very interested to see how things resolve or don't resolve in Volume 10. So I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that, and I'm excited to read it someday. But I'm also very excited to take a break from reading any huge, long stories in print. I think up next on the Life Project, I'm not sure what I will read next, but I think I want to read something that's more like in like 1 or 2 graphic novels. It's funny because I really, really enjoy big, long stories. It's just so difficult for me to read them in physical copies. I just don't want to do it. Like, even though when I get going, I enjoy it, I just gotta like twist my own arm to frickin' actually sit down and do it. So anyway, I'll let you know what I read next for the Life Project. I might take a little break from reading mainstream stuff and actually do some more convention swag reading, because I've still got a mountain of stuff that needs to be read that's more of an independent flavor. So thanks for watching. Hope this video wasn't too long for you. Hope you guys have a good week, and keep your stick on the ice.